Maria and welcome to SC Global News. From the third death anniversary of Pope Benedict XVI to Puerto Rico's new law recognizing unborn children as persons, we have many stories to cover. On the third anniversary of Pope Benedict XVI's death on 31st December 2025, Cardinal Gerhard Ludwig Müller, former prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, celebrated Mass at St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Benedict XVI was elected the 265th Pope in one of the fastest conclaves in history and chose his name Benedict XVI, describing himself as a simple, humble worker in the vineyard of the Lord. On the third death anniversary of Pope Benedict XVI on 31st December, Cardinal Gerhard Ludwig Müller, former prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, celebrated Mass at St. Peter's Basilica. In his homily, he remembered Joseph Ratzinger as a co-worker of the truth, who bequeathed the Church an extraordinary theological heritage, emphasizing that Benedict XVI is not a figure of past, but a member of the living body of Christ united in heaven and on earth. Pope Benedict XVI was elected as the 265th Pope in one of the quickest conclaves in history. He chose the name Benedict XVI, describing himself as a simple, humble worker in the vineyard of the Lord. Following the death of Pope John Paul II, he led the Church until 2013, when he became the first Pope in modern times to resign, reminding the world that papacy is a service, not a position. Pope Benedict spent his final years in the Mater Ecclesiae monastery within the walls of the Vatican. His global accomplishments underscores the continuity of Vatican's subtle diplomatic efforts. Notable areas of achievement include his work to promote Christian unity, his engagement with the Shiite leaders in Iran, and his role in fostering better relationship with Vietnam and China. During his pontificate, significant progress was made in ecumenical dialogue, particularly with the Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox churches. Over his 8-year tenure, more steps were taken to bridge historical divisions with other Christian communities than at any previous time. Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger was born on 16th April 1927 in Bavaria, southern Germany, into a deeply Catholic family. He was a son of a police officer whom he later described as having simple country roots. Supporters saw him as an exceptionally intellectual figure dedicated to safeguarding the spiritual legacy passed down by Pope John Paul II. His willingness to speak and act according to his convictions, even when it provoked controversy, reflected a man unafraid of challenging orders in defense of his beliefs. Following the example of his mentor John Paul II, Pope Benedict maintained that Christianity offered a true alternative of the dominant humanist philosophies of the 20th century, including Marxism, materialism, and liberalism. He also believed that the influence of Christianity would grow again like a mustard seed, beginning in small, dedicated communities whose members actively resist evil in the world while exemplifying what is good. The Bishop of Columbus, Ohio, has announced a temporary suspension from Mass for parishioners affected by heightened immigration enforcement fears. The decision follows reports of heightened ICE activities near churches and schools, which led to sharp drops in attendance. The measure aims to protect families during the Christmas season. The Bishop of the Diocese of Columbus, Ohio, has granted a temporary suspension from Sunday Mass for Catholics who fear deportation following increased immigration enforcement in the region. The Catholic Telegraph reported that the measure was announced last week and remains in effect until January 11, 2026. The decision was made by Bishop Earl Fernandez after pastors across central and northern Ohio expressed growing concern among immigrant parishioners. The situation reportedly followed the launch of Operation Buckeye, a U.S. immigration and customs enforcement initiative that began on December 16th and increased ICE presence near churches and Catholic schools. Diocesan officials stated that mass attendance dropped sharply in several parishes, with some pastors reporting that only 1/3 or fewer parishioners were present. Additionally, parish leaders moved traditional pre-Christmas posadas indoors after ICE vehicles appeared nearby, prompting concern among congregants. The bishop said he made the decision reluctantly, citing pastoral concern and the need for families to live without fear during Christmas. Church officials confirmed the exemption follows households to remain together while the diocese monitors the situation. The Diocese of Columbus serves diverse communities including Hispanic, African American, Haitian, and Asian Catholics. According to Catholic Telegraph, the diocese plans to reassess the suspension after the Christmas season. The Saudi-led coalition has urged civilians to evacuate areas around Yemen's Mukalla port ahead of possible military operations, citing security threats linked to unauthorized activity. A limited airstrike has already been carried out, with the coalition saying it was aimed at protecting regional stability while avoiding civilian harm. The warning underscores rising tensions in Yemen and growing concerns over the safety of a key trade and aid hub.
The Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen has called on civilians to evacuate areas around the port city of Mukalla, citing imminent military operations. The coalition said the warning was issued to protect civilians as it responds to what it described as unauthorized military activity at the strategic southern port. According to Saudi state media, coalition forces recently carried out a limited airstrike targeting equipment allegedly unloaded at Mukalla without approval from Yemen's internationally recognized government. The coalition claimed the material posed a direct security threat and said the strike was conducted with precision to avoid civilian casualties. The move highlights growing tensions within Yemen's complex conflict, including strains among regional allies backing different local factions. Mukalla is a vital hub for trade and aid deliveries, raising concerns about potential humanitarian fallout. The coalition said further steps could follow if the situation is not addressed, while urging civilians to heed evacuation warnings for their safety.
Iran is witnessing widespread protest as the collapsing currency and soaring prices push shopkeepers and workers into the streets across major cities. What began as an economic anger is now evolved into a political dissent, with demonstrators demanding accountability for years of mismanagement. US sanctions dominate the debate, blamed by officials for the crisis but seen by many protesters as only part of a deeper domestic failure.
Anger over soaring prices and the rapid collapse of the Iranian rial has sparked widespread protest and strikes across Iran, extending well beyond Tehran. Shopkeepers, traders, and workers in major cities shut businesses and gathered in the streets after the national currency fell to record lows against the US dollar, intensifying inflation and sharply increasing the cost of food, fuel, and everyday essentials. Demonstrations have been reported in cities including Isfahan, Shiraz, Mashhad, and Tabriz, with crowd voicing frustrations over years of economic mismanagement. Protesters have chanted slogans criticizing government policies and demanding accountability from senior officials. The United States has featured prominently in the public debate. Iranian officials have blamed US sanctions for worsening the economic crisis, arguing the restrictions on banking, oil exports, and trade have choked growth and weakened the rial. Protesters, however, have expressed mixed views, with some accusing authorities of using sanctions as an excuse for domestic failures. Security forces have responded with a heavy presence, deploying in riot police and making arrests in some locations. Despite government promises to stabilize the currency, many Iranians remain skeptical, warning unrest could continue without real reforms.
Puerto Rico has passed a new law recognizing unborn children as persons, granting them the same legal rights as any other human being. Last week, Republican Governor Jennifer Gonzalez-Colón announced that she had signed Senate Bill 504. The legislation revises the Civil Code of Puerto Rico to state explicitly that every human being is a natural person, including a conceived child at any stage of gestation within the mother's womb. Puerto Rico has passed new legislation recognizing unborn children as persons with the same rights as any other human being. Governor Jennifer Gonzalez-Colón announced that she signed Senate Bill 504 into law last week. The bill updates Puerto Rico's Civil Code to specify that every human being is a natural person, including a conceived child at any stage of gestation within the mother's womb. The law establishes that every human being acquires legal personhood and capacity from the moment of conception and is recognized as a subject of law in all matters that benefit them. While unborn children are granted inheritance rights, those rights take effect upon birth. Legal representation of a child in the womb is assigned to the individual who will assume responsibility after birth, or if that is not possible to a legally designated representative or guardian appointed by court. The legislation also outlines several ways an unborn child may benefit under this legal structure. This includes protections that parents may seek through health insurance coverage, personal injury claims, inheritance and property matters, and certain labor-related rights that parents could assert on child's behalf, among other potential applications. The legislation further specifies that recognizing the rights of an unborn child does not limit a pregnant woman's legal authority to make decisions regarding her pregnancy. The measure took effect immediately upon passage. Carol Tobias, president of the pro-life organization National Right to Life, praised the bill's approval, describing it as a significant milestone for the pro-life movement. In a statement, Tobias said the Puerto Rico's decision to formally acknowledge unborn children as persons demonstrate a strong commitment to protecting life and sets a meaningful precedent for lawmakers across the United States. That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.